welcome back to Cinematic Sarcastic, podcast that talks all things movies and television. I'm Natalie, and I'm your host. On today's episode, we are going to talk about Killers of the Flower Moon. I know it's been about a week since I put out an episode, and this was why. This was the only thing I was waiting for. There wasn't really anything too huge like on television or any other movies that I was super interested in watching, except for this one. I was very excited for this one. I just finished watching it, so I literally just got home from the theater after watching this movie, and I have to say, I have some big feelings about this one. I understand the Killers of the Flower Moon, it's historical. It is based off of a book that was written about this particular event in history, and it involves the Osage Murders that were happening because on the land in Oklahoma where the Osage kind of had been pushed, they discovered oil, and so, of course, had the rights to all of that oil money. And the story of the Osage Murders, for anyone who doesn't know, is basically a whole bunch of white people came in and started to do some really terrible things to them in order to get their hands on that money. And a lot of that involved marrying Osage women and finding ways to kill them. And this was not making things look like an accident or anything of that nature. We shot her in the back of the head and just left her in a ditch somewhere, right? It's things that, from my perspective, like this is one of those movies, and it is a bit of a longer one. It's about 3.5 hours. And this is one of those movies that, depending on the type of person you are, you're going to just be angry through the entire 3.5 hours. I certainly was. It's a harder story to sit through, and a lot of historical events, I guess, that surround, a lot of the native peoples are harder to sit through. That just is what it is, that history is not a pleasant one. And Killers of the Flower Moon is no different. I have very rarely had films, and Killers of the Flower Moon would be one of them. And shockingly enough, the other movie that kind of did the same thing to me also starred Robert De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio. So I feel like maybe the combination of the two, I should just avoid movies from now on that have both of them in it at the same time. I remember a million years ago now when Leonardo DiCaprio was much younger, him and Robert De Niro did another film, which I want to say was like the Basketball Diaries. I could be wrong on that one, so don't quote me on it. But basically, Robert De Niro just like married Leonardo DiCaprio, his character, his mom, and treated them really poorly, beat them up, and that sort of thing. And I remember watching that movie, and then I couldn't watch like any movie for a number of years that starred Robert De Niro in it, because I had been so angry at how horrible he had been. Even though I knew he was an actor, it was hard for me to look at his face in a movie. And so I don't think I watched another Robert De Niro movie until he did that one with Claire Danes, I want to say, which was like the Neil Gaiman story. I want to say that that's the one that he did. So it was like, gosh, it was like nearly a decade. I want to say it was about that long before I could watch Robert De Niro. And I feel like Killers of the Flower Moon has done the same thing to me. Like, I love Robert De Niro. I think he's such a good actor. But him and Leonardo DiCaprio and a couple of the other people in this, a couple of other actors in this, did such a good job at being such horrifically horrible people that I think it's going to be one of those times that I am going to have a really difficult time watching any movies for a little while that have Leonardo DiCaprio or Robert De Niro in them, because they play the part so convincingly that I really just hated them so much in this. And I have a weird brain also, where even though I understand the world and I understand how money really is the motivation for a lot of people, for most people, like all of us want money. We want to be able to support ourselves, and we don't want to be in a situation where we like can't feed our children or can't pay our bills. I understand what that's like. I grew up not well off. I grew up in a trailer park. I understand what it's like when your parents struggle, when they can't often give you things, when, you can't just go to the grocery store and buy whatever food you want. I understand that lack mentality. I don't understand in situations like this where William Hale had money. He already had money. He had his own money, and he still spun all of these wheels and took so many lives just to get more of it. And my brain cannot wrap itself around people like that, or having that as a motivation to take someone else's life. I have never wanted money so badly that I would hurt someone else for it. And certainly not someone that I called my friend or someone that I knew well. Like this particular situation was not that either of them is any easier, but it's not, a new people coming from somewhere else and coming onto the land and wanting that land. And so they're going to kill whoever is there to take that land. This isn't that kind of story. This is you're living next to them. They're your neighbors. You see them every day. You have known them since they were children. You experience the sadnesses that they go to. You do call them friend. And then you turn around and you set things up to take their lives or take their money or have, insurance policies taken out on someone, and then that someone has an accident, but these aren't strangers. They're not, they're people that And so I don't understand that in William Hale and how these are things that he could accomplish, or, anyone back then. There was just such ruthlessness and such heartlessness in it, which, I guess in terms of the terrible things that happen throughout history, yeah, that, it is heartless and it is ruthless, and that is a thing. And I can't, I can't sit through things like that very well. So yes, I think that Killers of the Flower Moon is definitely a great movie to watch. Lily Gladstone does an exceptional job. Leonardo DiCaprio is amazing. Robert De Niro is amazing. Brendan Fraser had a little bit of a role in this, and I also vehemently disliked him, and he was only in it for maybe 2 minutes. Everyone did an exceptional job in this. It's just one of those things where from the perspective that the story is being told, there is not a single good person there. Really the only good person that you get to kind of see all of the time throughout the movie was Molly Burkhart, played by Lily Gladstone, and she did a really great job. And the amount of suffering that has to have gone on here, I can't even conceive of. I can't even conceive of that in my lifetime. I absolutely would recommend seeing it. Whether or not you can see this in the theaters or you want to see this in the theaters, I think is going to come down to the type of person that you are. I am not sad that I supported it and went and saw it in the theaters, but I do, in some aspect, wish that I could have or would have waited, I guess, until it came out onto streaming to be able to watch it at home, where I'm not as angry, or I'm not crying in the movie theater, or, where it's easier to kind of deal with big feelings, I guess, because I get a lot of big feelings when I watch movies or listen to stories or anything of that nature. I feel a lot of that when I'm watching things, and that's just the type of person that I am. It's just a fault of mine, I guess, that when somebody is sad in the movie or when somebody is struggling in a movie, I often will just be sad with them. That's just my type of thing. So 3.5 hours of kind of having a difficult time sitting and watching these characters struggle and suffer continuously is a hard one. So if you are at all like me, where you have a difficult time watching people, go through hard things, then maybe wait for streaming on this one. But it is a really great and well done film. It is a slower start. Again, it's 3.5 hours. So it is a slower start. But once you kind of get into it and they've done all of the setup, it is exceptionally well done. And it is, again, a historical movie that I think, everybody should sit and watch movies like this so that we have an understanding of things that have been done before. And even though, some of those things, obviously there are terrible things happening in the world right now as I speak. And I think it is important to educate ourselves, I guess, is the word I would use, or at least have some understanding of some of the terrible things that have happened before our lifetimes, so that hopefully we can be the type of people that will not perpetrate those types of things in our lifetimes or in our children's lifetimes. But yeah, this one is just a harder one. It's harder to explain and say like, oh yes, this is a great movie, you should go see it, because it is, but it's such a difficult topic that it's just a weird one. It's not one that I can be like super excited to talk about, if that makes sense. But I did very much enjoy it. I think it was really well done. Martin Scorsese did a really great job here. All of the acting was so exceptional that now Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro are like on my bad list. But yeah, definitely one I would recommend. You guys are going to have to let me know what you think of this one if you go and see Killers of the Flower Moon. Subscribe if you want to join the Movie Nerd family. And I hope to see you in the next episode.